A lot of times when we're getting started with a beauty retouching project, we want to jump right into using those beauty retouching tools like spot healing and clone stamp. But it's a good idea to get started with your basic adjustment layers first, such as exposure and color balance. And right now we're going to talk about exposure. To figure out how much exposure you should be using on your picture, it's kind of helpful to use the eyedropper tool first. What we're looking for is areas of the picture that are pure black and pure white, because a really good looking photo should have the full range of values from black to white. So let me take a little sample of her eyes there, and I'm trying to find the darkest part of her eyes, but it seems like no matter what I do, maybe there's a little bit of blackness in her pupils. I'm having a hard time getting a lot of pure black in this image, and the shadows are turning out very red. Likewise, I might want to look at something like the whites of her eyes to try and find something in the picture that should be pure white. We have a pure white element up there. But it looks like on her face and the shine on her face, there's no real pure white. So we want to increase the exposure a little bit, and then we also want to increase the gamma. Now, your exposure adjustment layer is found at the bottom of your layers panel in this little icon that looks like a yin-yang symbol. It's a circle that's dark on one side and light on the other side. If you click on that, you have all of these different adjustment layers to play with. And these adjustment layers are super useful because you're actually putting your adjustments on separate layers. So if you decide, you know what, you don't really want those adjustments after all, you can just delete them or hide them. So now that I've clicked on the exposure adjustment layer, some things that we want to play with are exposure and gamma. I'm just going to just ever so lightly increase the gamma or the exposure just to kind of brighten up her eyes. And then I want to just increase the gamma a little bit to bring back some of the details in the shadows. Okay, very good. Now let's see the before and after. Before, it's kind of washed out. After, it's looking much more vivid. Now we can already tell that we're going to need to use some color balance to get rid of the excess reds and yellows, but that's for another lesson. Now this picture here is going to show us how effective gamma can be. Now if you use your eyedropper tool and look for something in the picture that should be pure black, I'll try and take the darkest shadow in this little goat's mouth there. You can see I'm not getting pure black, I'm getting kind of a dark gray color. So I'm going to use exposure and bring back those pure blacks. So I'm going to go down to my adjustment layer icon. I'm going to click on the exposure adjustment layer, and then I'm going to increase the gamma. And so I'm increasing it until the black parts of this picture look pure black. And then I'm going to increase the exposure just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of vividness. And now let's see the before and after. Before and after. Now this image is a great candidate for increasing the exposure, right? We know that this wall back here should be white, but if you take a sample of it, it's dark yellowish red. Up here, we should have pure white, but again, it's kind of gray. So we need to increase the exposure. Go down to my exposure, my adjustment layer icon. I'm going to click on exposure, and then I'm going to increase the exposure. And now the picture is much brighter. So next steps, we're going to work on a little color balance, and we're going to get to that fun beauty retouching.